In this video, we are going to learn how to add displacement to an object in Unreal Engine 5 using two different methods. We are using displacement in conjunction with Nanite and ray tracing in the engine, which can sometimes get a little bit tricky. For reference, I'm using Unreal Engine 5.4 and I'm going to go to my project settings and show you what I have turned on. I am using hardware ray tracing when available, and all my lights have ray tracing enabled. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to use displacement on our material without modifying the mesh itself. We're just going to add a displacement map, which I have over here, to our material. I'm going to double click on this material, which is the material assigned to this object, and let's see what that has here. You'll notice that there is no displacement on the material by default. We just have a base color and all our other maps. So I am going to close this out and I'm going to show you how to add displacement into your project using the default engine INI file. Depending on where you saved your project, you just need to open it out. And within the project folder, you're going to see config. And inside config, you have this default engine file. Double click on that, and it's going to open this out in Notepad. Within this file, you just want to add two statements that allow us to use Nanite for tessellation, which we require to use our displacement map on the material. I can add these two statements anywhere. I'm going to add it to my renderer settings. This is the best place to do that. The two statements that you're going to add is going to be, I'm going to also save this. And once you do that, you need to restart the engine. So I'm going to close this out and I'm going to restart Unreal Engine. I have restarted the engine. So now let's go back to my content drawer and let's look at my material. You can see that I have displacement enabled over here. It is not turned on yet, but I do have the option to turn it on. The first thing I'm going to do is make sure my mesh can handle displacement. And this is done using Nanite. So Nanite is a technology native to Unreal Engine, and it really helps to work with high poly meshes. So I'm going to double click, select this mesh, double click on the static mesh section, and I'm just going to enable Nanite support. It's that easy. And now let me save this and go back to our material so that we can add that into our material. So I'm going to select this material, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my normal map in there. Displacement always works in combination with a normal. So I'm going to add that in there. And now I'm going to add in my displacement. So I'm going to enable that by typing in Nanite. Make sure you have the material selected when you do that. And here you have enable tessellation. I'm going to turn that on. And now you'll see that you have displacement active and you have a displacement section where you can choose your magnitude and your center. So I'm going to add my map in there to start off with, and I'm going to just connect the R channel to displacement. Let me double click on this displacement map and also turn off sRGB. We never want any grayscale maps to be using sRGB, so I'm going to turn that off. Select this. It's going to give me an error. That's because we need to be using linear color, which works on the brightness values of this map instead of working with the color values. So we turn on linear color, turn off sRGB. Let me make sure this is saved. And now let's continue. Let me save this as well and apply it to the object in the world. Here is what my final model looks like. So I have the displacement set up here, and that's working in conjunction with my normal map, and it's actually affecting the silhouette of my model. But now, if I go to my directional light and turn on ray tracing, so I'm going to do that. and turn on ray tracing and cast ray trace shadows. I'm going to use project settings since I have it enabled. And we get these really ugly shadows. Now, some of this can be fixed using another command on the console. For this model particularly, it doesn't fix everything, but this will get rid of some of the problems. So r.raytracing.nanite.mode, and this is the command that we're using. And I'm just going to put a space and type in 1. So this command is going to allow ray tracing in nanite mode, and it's going to get rid of some of those shadows. Before I accept that command and have that setting turned on, I'm going to tell you why this happens. So if I go to my model, I have nanite support enabled. If I click on show in this section right here and turn on nanite fallback, you can see that the nanite fallback mesh is slightly different from my actual mesh. So this is the nanite fallback mesh, and this is my actual mesh. The reason that you even have a nanite fallback is for performance reasons, so that your performance is better. But when you're using Lumen, nanite, ray tracing, all those things together, it renders out your nanite fallback instead of rendering out your actual mesh that you want to see. That's why you get those artifacts. So let's try seeing how much of that we can prevent. So r.raytracing.nanite mode, spacebar 1, and click on enter. That gets rid of quite a lot of these shadows, but you still have a few there. You have a couple of options here. Sometimes this command doesn't work with all meshes, so you can just not use ray tracing for this project. I like ray tracing for softer shadows, so I prefer using it. So if you have meshes like this, which have a lot of displacement, there is another method to add displacement. Continue using nanite and also use ray tracing. So I'm going to show you that. For some meshes, this command will completely work and it'll get rid of all the shadows. Now let's look at another method we can use to add displacement. For this method, we are going to use our displacement map to actually subdivide the mesh and add that displacement to the mesh itself. The big disadvantage of this is that the size of your model on disk is going to increase because you're actually changing this model instead of changing the material. If you have many objects using this method of displacement, you might see performance issues, but for a single object, because we're also using this in conjunction with nanite, you won't see too much of a problem. So let's go to my material and let's disconnect displacement. I'm still going to have my normal map in there that is necessary to get accurate displacement results. And now let's use the displacement map to actually displace the mesh. You can do this by going to modeling mode, deform, and displace. This is what's going to happen at the start because the displacement type is set to Perlin noise. You just need to change that to texture to remap and bring in your displacement map. So I know what mine is called. I'm going to bring that in, and it is going to add that displacement to the mesh. I'm going to set this to maybe 2 or 1 depending on what I like. Something to keep in mind is that it is dividing it a certain number of times. This is my wireframe, so it's adding a lot of topology to my original mesh. I can take this further if I want to and add more resolution. But basically, this is what it's doing. It's using that map to displace the mesh, and it's adding resolution to our actual mesh in the content drawer. And once I accept this, it is going to actually apply this to the mesh, so I'm going to accept. And if you want to use ray tracing, you're getting those weird shadows, this is a method that usually gets rid of those shadows. Keep in mind that some of these methods might not be optimized for games. The videos on my channel are mostly for rendering and for creating films or turnarounds. So if you're creating a game and performance is the most optimal thing, these videos may not work, but these two methods for displacement are just good to know in case you want to add displacement to any of your projects.